Rivers hold countless secrets, often hiding the chilling evidence of tragedies and crimes. This is exactly what happened in the small town of Waurika, Oklahoma, when the body of a young teenage girl was found washed ashore. Her face was completely disfigured.
It all started in October 1996. Heather Rich was listed as a runaway for days after sneaking out of her window to party with Wood, Bagwell, and Gamble. 7 days later, Heather's body was found floating in a Montague County creek. Randy Wood was crowned Waurika's homecoming king that same night. Heather had been a homecoming queen candidate.
Yes, you heard that right. This harrowing story took place in the quiet town of Waurika, with a population of about 2,000 people, where everyone knows each other, and life is usually calm and uneventful. In the fall of 1996, the Rich family lived in Waurika: Gail, the mother, Dwayne, the father, and their 4 children, 3 boys and a girl named Heather. At that time, Heather was a sophomore in high school. She was not only an excellent student, but also a cheerleader. Heather was a true beauty who attracted attention wherever she went. She was kind-hearted, but also adventurous and loved having fun. At 16, Heather was in her rebellious phase, eager to experience everything life had to offer. On the evening of October 2nd, 1996, a heated argument broke out between Heather and her mother over a $300 phone bill Heather had run up talking with her friends. Gail was upset about the expense, while Dwayne remained more composed.
For a fight here, okay, Heather, how are you going to pay this bill? Well, she's looking at me in all this innocence, and I was so frustrated. I told her that night that all she did was cost me money. And I never said anything like that to Heather.
The family was struggling financially. Dwayne, an electrician, had been severely injured in a transformer explosion, requiring prolonged treatment and skin grafts. He couldn't work, so Gail had taken on an extra job to support the family. Every dollar counted. Gail tried to explain to Heather that they couldn't afford such high bills and wanted to teach her respect for money and the importance of independence. However, Heather didn't take this well, leading to a serious argument.
Her daughter got into an argument over a $300 telephone bill.
There I am with my towel on.
She was fun to be around, you know. She was always laughing, cutting up, doing whatever.
When the tempers cooled, Heather decided to go to bed. She wished her father good night in the living room, but ignored her mother, still upset. On this somber note, the family retired to their rooms.
The argument had not yet ended when Heather went to say goodnight to her parents.
She came into the bedroom, told her daddy she loved him, and he told her he loved her too. And then she made a big production of walking past me to make sure I understood. She didn't say that to me. She was upset with me. And she went to her room, and that was the last I saw my daughter.
The next morning, October 3rd, Gail went to wake the children for breakfast, but Heather didn't come out. Gail thought Heather was still upset and expected her to come down when she got hungry. But Heather never showed up. When Gail finally went to Heather's room, she found it empty.
Heather was probably angry and would turn up soon. Gail wasn't so sure.
I knew my daughter. She wouldn't have done that. Heather would handle her problems in a different way, not run away from.
Cell phones were rare back then, so Heather didn't have one. The worried parents called all of Heather's friends, but no one knew where she was. This behavior was completely out of character for Heather. She had no mental issues and had never run away from home before. She always took great care of her appearance and wouldn't go anywhere for long without her clothes and makeup, all of which were left at home. Gail and Dwayne hurried to the sheriff's office in Waurika to report Heather missing. The sheriff tried to reassure them, suggesting Heather had probably run away after their argument, as teenagers often do.
Frustrated with the police, Gail and her husband immediately began their own search of the town.
But Gail and Dwayne knew this was unlike their daughter. Despite the parents' concerns, law enforcement assured them that most runaway teens return home quickly. They explained that a person must be missing for at least 24 hours before a report could be filed. Disappointed, Gail and Dwayne returned home to wait for news. Determined to find their daughter, Gail and Dwayne began their own search in town. They contacted Heather's friends, including 17-year-old Randy Wood, the school football team captain.
Dating, or what the kids call going together. consisted of talking on the telephone for hours at a time, seeing each other at school, and him coming over to the house and watching TV with.
Heather had recently run up the large phone bill talking to Randy. When Gale called Randy, he claimed to know nothing about Heather's whereabouts. Despite his calm tone, Gale felt Randy was hiding something, as he seemed to be repeating a rehearsed story. Next, Gale contacted 17-year-old Josh Bagwell, whom Heather had recently started dating. When Gale called, Josh's grandmother answered, saying Josh was resting after a party. She refused to wake him and said she was cleaning up the trailer where the party had been held.
She said he needed a time to party the night before, and so she was going to let him sleep that morning, and she wouldn't let me talk to him. So I left, but did notice that she was cleaning the trailer from a party that the kids had had, and I made note of that.
With no useful information, Gale and Dwayne drove around the county searching for clues. After a day of fruitless searching, they returned to the police station, and law enforcement finally joined the search. A week passed with no leads. As hope of finding Heather alive faded, police patrolling the outskirts near the Texas border noticed a body in the river, floating face down.
What we were told at the time was that they thought they'd found a human leg floating in Belknap Creek.
From the bridge overlooking the creek, Texas authorities spied a body half submerged in the murky water below. Evidence visible on the bridge clearly indicated foul play.
You could definitely tell there had been a murder there. You could tell by the patterning of the blood, and it was apparent that someone had covered it up with dirt and tried to conceal it.
Police struggled to pull the mutilated body from the creek.
It looked like there were more than 5, 6. Ultimately, we learned that there had been 9 shotgun blasts to the body.
The body was half submerged in muddy water, covered with dirt to make it harder to see. When divers retrieved the body, they discovered something horrifying. The victim had numerous buckshot wounds, indicating a point-blank shooting, likely from a shotgun. The face was so badly disfigured that identification seemed impossible. When Heather's body was discovered, it was clear that a forensic examination was needed. Experts found that she had been shot 9 times from close range, once in the back of the head and 8 times in the back. The body was in such terrible condition that it was almost unrecognizable. Heather's parents were called in to identify her. They could only confirm it was their daughter by a ring with her name engraved on it, a gift from her mother.
The body was so damaged that no immediate identification could be made. But Montague County Sheriff Chris Hamilton knew that just across the border in Oklahoma, a high school sophomore was missing.
Heather was reported having braces. This female did. She reported having a ring, which this female did.
What do you think, guys? Does that look anything like her? It's kind of hard to tell, I know. Braces sure does.
That evening, Dwayne Rich, Heather's father, identified his daughter from the ring on her finger. Dwayne returned home to break the news to his wife.
I just told him to hurry up to say it. I don't remember a lot after that. I went into shock. I remember screaming, beating on everybody that was close enough to me, and just trying to accept it, that she was dead. She wasn't coming home.
The final confirmation came from dental records, as Heather had non-removable braces. The news of Heather's death spread quickly, becoming the main topic of discussion in the town. The news reached Randy Wood, Heather's ex-boyfriend and a star football player. The day Heather went missing coincided with an annual football match where Randy was celebrated as the king of the game. Usually, such events led to big celebrations, but this time, there was no room for joy. Randy was devastated and later visited the bridge where Heather's body was found, staring into the water and hiding a terrible secret.
Somewhere around third hour, I was at the water fountain by the gym, and a friend of mine come up and said, well, they found Heather's body. And everything just stopped. My world stopped, my time stopped, everything just stopped.
The investigation quickly pointed to Randy and several of his friends. Heather's mother, Gail, had already called many of Heather's friends and had strong suspicions about Randy and Heather's current boyfriend, Josh Bagwell. Both boys seemed to have a rehearsed story and were noticeably nervous, unlike Heather's other friends who actively joined the search.
3 teenage boys who turned an ordinary night into a family's tragedy.
One's a homecoming king. One's a rich, spoiled kid. One's a kid that's a tough off the streets. It's more like something you'd see out of Hollywood than you would in southern Oklahoma.
Texas police began their investigation in Heather Rich's hometown.
And the starting point obviously is going to be in Waurika, where Heather was last known to be on the night of October 2nd.
They interviewed Heather's mother, Gail. She told them about her own search for her daughter and the early suspicions she had regarding 2 of Heather's friends, homecoming king Randy Wood and his friend, fellow senior Josh Bagwell.
It was soon revealed that Heather had planned to meet Josh at a party, despite her parents' ban on leaving the house. After her parents fell asleep, she snuck out to meet Josh and Randy. Josh was known for his wealth, driving the coolest cars and flaunting his family's money.
Josh Bagwell was considered to be the little rich kid in town, the one who always drove the nicest car. And he was sort of the rich, dark character in town.
In contrast, Randy came from a modest background but gained fame through his football talent. Heather often hung out with Randy and Josh. They drank alcohol and sometimes smoked marijuana, as there wasn't much else to do in their small town.
I think just his status as the football player and everything else made him that in the school district.
Like many Waurika teenagers, both Randy and Josh passed their nights driving the back roads, drinking whiskey, and doing drugs.
Cocaine, methamphetamines, marijuana, any number of things. At some point during the day, I would do one of all 3 of them or more than one. Sometimes I would do all 3.
Just days before her disappearance, Heather and another cheerleader were caught with marijuana, leading to a 3-day school suspension.
Confronted by her parents, Heather revealed that she had experimented with drugs.
She was crying, and she brought in a cigar box, and it was full of things to use to smoke marijuana with. We were concerned about the drinking and why she was rebelling in this way, doing the things that seemed out of character.
I think she had just began to develop an experience on the fringe of that subculture, and I think that in time, Heather would have bounced off of that and gotten her business back in order, but she was not given that opportunity.
The police focused on Josh and Randy, hoping to learn more about the party on the night Heather disappeared. Both boys claimed they were playing dominoes and drinking, denying any contact with Heather. Their identical stories and lack of emotion raised suspicions.
He's rattling the story out, and there's no emotion, there's no having to think about it, it's automatic coming to him. I had wrote down on my notepad, concluding his interview, that I believed he was lying.
The autopsy revealed Heather had been shot with a powerful type of buckshot, rarely used in such crimes. This clue led the police to a local store where the ammunition was sold. The store owner identified Josh as the buyer, accompanied by Curtis Gamble, a known troublemaker.
We stood around and scratched our head and wondered why someone would shoot someone 9 times. We have police-type shotguns, and most of them hold 8. Why was she shot 9 times?
Just before the murder, 20 rounds of buckshot had been purchased by Heather's friend, high school senior Josh Bagwell. The owner also told police that someone else had been with Josh when he made the purchase.
The only question then we had was, who was this guy who was with Bagwell? And the investigators involved in this overall investigation had learned that he had been seen frequently, Bagwell had been seen frequently with.
Curtis, 19, had a history of run-ins with the law. Police visited his home and learned from his grandmother that he often fished near the bridge where Heather's body was found. When Curtis was interrogated, he initially said nothing but eventually agreed to a polygraph test. He also admitted owning a shotgun that matched the murder weapon. Faced with evidence, Curtis confessed and implicated Randy and Josh.
Curtis had a terrible background, had a violent background. One of the things he used to like to do is drive around and shoot people's dogs out of their front yards and drive off. And he would shoot cattle, horses, just drive around and kill things.
On the afternoon of October 23rd, Ranger Lane Aiken paid a visit to the new suspect's home in nearby Terrell, Oklahoma. There he spoke to Curtis's grandmother, Rita Robbins, who revealed something unexpected.
When Curtis was a boy, she used to take him fishing over in Texas at the Belknap Creek Bridge. And the description she gave took us right back to the Heather Rich murder scene.
The pieces were falling into place. The next day, authorities picked up Curtis Gamble and took him to the sheriff's office in Waurika, where he agreed to take a polygraph test.
3 weeks after Heather's death, the police had Curtis's detailed confession and arrested all 3 boys. Randy Wood, a star football player and Heather's ex-boyfriend, Josh Bagwell, her current boyfriend, and Curtis Gamble, a known troublemaker.
It was a rare firearm, a Mossberg M9 shotgun.
We look and it's capable of firing 9 rounds, knowing that Heather had been shot 9 times.
Curtis confessed, claiming that Randy had handed him the shotgun and ordered him to shoot Heather while Josh stood by. The police were skeptical. Randy was an exemplary student and athlete with no history of trouble.
Chris Gamble lays out the whole story, what had happened, in about a 2-page confession that I typed as he spoke.
On the strength of Curtis's confession, 3 weeks after Heather Rich disappeared, police arrested Randy and Josh for her kidnap and murder. In custody, Josh refused to give police a statement.
The trial took place in Texas, a state known for its harsh penalties, including the death penalty for murder. None of the suspects wanted to take the blame for the fatal shot, complicating the investigation. After numerous interrogations, Randy finally spoke, denying his direct involvement and insisting Curtis was the shooter.
It was my idea that I killed her, that I was one calling shots, and that he was just following my orders.
Randy didn't add up. Randy still went to school. Randy played football. Randy wasn't, quote unquote, what we would consider a killer at the time.
Police believed that Randy would lead them to the truth about what happened on the bridge the night of October 2nd, and they pressured him to talk.
Josh refused to cooperate at all. Detectives pieced together the events of October 2nd, 1996. According to Randy, he, Curtis, and Josh had planned to drink together, with Heather joining them later.
From the night that we took the statement from him that he admitted his involvement. He was polygraphed on that story. He passed.
Randy Wood agreed to tell American Justice the same story he told police.
Heather knew Randy and Josh well, but had never met Curtis. After drinking, Heather became incapacitated. Curtis, drunk and dangerous, decided to take advantage of her.
We got there a little bit early, and she wasn't there, but we all kind of snuck up to her window and knocked, and she was already gone. We got back to the trailer, and she was sitting on the step of the trailer smoking a cigarette.
Josh and Heather were left alone while Curtis and Randy rode the streets, the back roads, still drinking. When they came back, Heather was extremely intoxicated.
Randy says that Josh and Heather had had sex, and that consequently Heather felt she had betrayed Randy, her former boyfriend.
She was telling me she was sorry and this and that, and I told her, you don't have to worry about anything. Me and you called it quits a long time ago, so, you're not doing wrong by me. And then, she just kind of just laid down.
Heather had apparently consumed so much alcohol that she was close to passing out.
When Heather resisted and fainted, Curtis panicked, fearing she would remember and report him. He suggested killing her to avoid prison. During the trial, Curtis shocked everyone by claiming Randy, not Josh, had fired the fatal shot. This revelation deeply affected Randy, who then refused his plea bargain, unwilling to let his confession be seen as a way to save himself.
He was going to turn him in for rape. So they couldn't do that. They couldn't go to jail for rape. So let's just kill her.
he stopped the truck right in the middle of the bridge. And as he's getting out, he grabs a shotgun and tells me and Josh, you know, get her out and put her over on the side.
On the isolated bridge, Randy says that he feared for his life, and so again he obeyed Curtis's orders.
I knew there was nothing I could do to stop it. Because, you know, he had it set in his mind what he was going to do, and there's not a doubt in my mind he would have killed me too if I would have objected to what he was doing.
Randy accused his accomplices right in the courtroom, stating that he primarily wanted justice for Heather. Despite his lawyer's advice, Randy risked ending up on death row, impressing Heather's parents with his courage. They even met with Randy after the court session, appreciating his bold and principled step. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comment section.